Welcome to another episode of OC Talks here with Miami Community News. Today's episode is going to be really in tune for those working professionals that we have listening to this cast. Now, at the same time, the mission of this is really to inspire and motivate the audience. So if you're watching this and you're having a hard time getting into fitness, if you're having a hard time just getting moving because of day-to-day life, right? It's just a reality. All of us have some type of struggle. This episode is for you. And today, I brought one of my clients, a dear friend, Michael Edwards. He is from Blueprint Wealth Advisors, and I want you to hear his story, right? I want you to hear his story because I know some of you out there have the same type of struggles, have the same issues, and if he can do it, you can do it as well. Mike, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about what you do, and just in general, when you had some issues getting into fitness, how you seek professional help.
Mhm.
We got together and we got moving, as we always say.
Yep.
So let the viewers know just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Mike Edwards, president of Blueprint Wealth Advisors. We're a independent wealth management company specializing in building investment portfolios, retirement portfolios for individuals, corporations, and multiple forms of trusts.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's so many working professionals out there, right? That are day to day trying to get take care of themselves, but they're so focused on just building wealth and just doing better on one category, and then they realize that the other categories are neglected, and then once that happens, they're like, oh gosh. I've dug myself a little, deep into this hole. Now I got to get out of it. So how did you realize at one point? All right, I got to do something.
Yep.
I got to do something because I'm gaining weight. My health is going, and I gotta fix this now.
Yep. So I guess for most people, I guess myself included, when I first made it down to Wall Street, I was still a kid. I was 18 years old, and the most important thing, what I defined as success back then, was how much money are we making, how strong is the business,
Yep.
and how great are things going, and am I moving in the right direction? That always takes, the forefront.
Right.
What usually falls behind is the health side and things of that nature. And so
Right.
for me, I've always worked out, recreationally, I guess you can say, so 3-4 times a week or so. But business and success, in my mind, business being strong was always number one for me. That was always key. So I guess you can say that in my 20s, that was always number one thing. You couldn't convince me otherwise. 30s, I guess the same. And then I guess once I hit the age of 40,
the big 40,
3 years ago now.
Right.
Once I hit 40, I think everything kind of, I guess my priorities had changed. I was everywhere I ever thought I would want it to be. And, in my 20s and 30s, like if you asked me at 30 where I should be in my 40s, it's exactly where I was. And I still wasn't happy. There was still something that was missing for me, something that I guess, I wasn't complete, right? So I needed to use that same energy that I always pushed for and always was striving to get further in business. I needed to move some of that energy to something else that was going to make me feel like the best version of myself. Yep. My health wasn't where I wanted it to be. My cholesterol was going high. And most importantly, I basically made that a priority now. And I said, you know what, at this stage of my life, if I keep on just chasing more success, business wise, I'm never going to be happy because there's always something more you can do. There's always something further. So in the field that I'm in, I deal with hundreds of clients. I need my clients to have the best version of myself. My clients, my staff, my family,
Yep.
My friends, everyone, to get the best version of me. I needed to be more complete, and health was what was missing. I needed to really prioritize that as much as I did my business. I need to prioritize my health.
And that's huge. And this is something that I tell people over and over again is you got to take care of yourself. Okay. We're stuck in most of us are stuck in this realm of like, okay, I'm going to take care of everything around me and then make sure that I'm okay. Listen, the reality is if your foundation is not there, if your energy is not at 100% because you're not taking care of yourself, everything around you will suffer. You're the foundation, you're the nexus of everything. So in business, if you feel confident, in your personal life, if you have the energy, if you have kids, if you have your significant other, and you're there because you're energized, you're this, you're that, because you're taking care of yourself, it's going to go a long way. It's being on your A game, being at that 100%. So how can we get to that 100%? Is really working on the mental and physical aspect of it. So there's two components to this. People think fitness is just about the fitness aspect of it, or the nutritional aspect of it. Obviously that is. There's a third component to it, which is the mental aspect of it. That's what a lot of people don't understand. So I remember at one point, most people, especially years ago, one of the biggest things that, and today this still happens, is that they say is, oh, it's 80% nutrition and 20% exercise. Now, I'm going to spin that on its head, and I have literally gone right up to this and have butted heads with people, and I am so adamant on really relaying this message. And the message really is, it's 50% mindset, 25% nutrition, and 25% exercise. You can't have everything working if in other words, if one is missing, it's not going to work. So you got to have the nutritional aspect in play. You got to have the fitness aspect in play. But if that 50% mindset is not there, then what are you doing? It's going to fall apart. So that's one of the most critical components when it comes to all this. So when clients come to see us, the first thing I do is do the analysis and the assessment. How are we going to program a client? Once we have that idea, the first 3 weeks is more of a mental preparation, how to build these habits. It takes about 6 weeks. How do we solidify that habit, which takes about 3 months to solidify it. And once we have this in play, then the rest is history. Most of them will fall into that zone, which you're definitely in that zone.
Yep.
And that's the key. When we have a client in the zone, that's the best part.
Yep.
Because I know that they're there, and then it becomes that repetitiveness that if you're not working out, look, today you worked out this morning.
Yep.
And it's now become that that your Tuesdays, your Thursdays, your Fridays is your time, your day. And if you're not there, you feel strange.
Yep.
And that's what we try to implement. If you feel strange because you're not doing your exercise, you're in that zone. If you're struggling and you're like, oh my God, I got to work out, I got to do this, that's where we have to come in and kind of make that mental shift.
I think you and I had discussed this a few times over the last few years, that when I first started the process, like working out by yourself is you can get done what you want to get done, but you're focusing on, okay, I can do 10 reps of this, I can do 8 reps of this. When you and I had first sat down, I had so many similarities to when I first sit down with a client. Because what do? You sit down and first say, like in my field, it's not about, we're not talking about investments or stocks. That's all later on in life, right? Like so in the beginning, it's let's find out about you. Where are you today, right?
Yep.
Where do you want to be? Where are your goals, right? This is what we need to do to get you there. Because mentally, it's very easy to fall off track if you don't have someone that's a professional, that's done it, has been through all of those cycles already before you. And they understand to guide you, and they're going to push you in ways you cannot push yourself.
And so when they're committed.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that to me is, that's amazing. And it's something that it's worth every single dollar that you can possibly spend, because to have that extra level of confidence, someone who's going to push you to the next level, is just, that was huge. That was huge.
You hit the nail on the head, because it goes back to, and I mentioned the story before, one of my clients, a very well-known client in this community, and he was having a hard time. The hard time was his health aspect. Now, in business, in his philanthropic work, I'm having a tongue twister here, but that, and also in the business world, he's done excellent. When I mean excellent, this is one of the top players in this community. And he comes up to me, he goes, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time losing weight. And I tell him, it's not a matter of having a hard time, because you don't have any underlying issues. You don't have any other type of medical conditions. It's just a matter of a mental shift. And I'll tell you where that's coming from. So I sat down with him and I told him, this is what you have to think. the same behaviors that you put in, day out to the category of your personal work, of your life's work, I want you to utilize these same behaviors, patterns, and repetitive patterns into your health component. So if you're putting in the reps at work, doing the phone calls, doing the meetings, put in the reps for your health category, and it's all going to align. And it's almost like a light bulb went off. I mean, he's like, you know what? I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
And I go, it works like that in almost every single aspect of it. And after that, I kid you not, in a matter of, I think it was like 3 months, he made more progress than he did in a year prior to that.
Yep.
Because I mean, we were working, but there was a whole lot of other aspects of it. Because again, life, reality is hard, right? We have so many factors coming at us. And he just made that epiphany, just hit him saying, my God, it's the exact same thing. I just got to change the way we're doing it. And it goes back to what you're doing in the finance world. It's you have your client, you do the assessments, you understand. And in our world, it's the same thing. We have to understand that client. We really have to dig deep.
Yep.
Just like you have to dig deep. What's going on? What's their risk tolerance?
Yep.
Are they really aggressive or are they really conservative? Because they'll tell you, hey, I'm aggressive. And they're like, no, you're really not.
Yep.
I mean, it's a whole nother aspect of it. And it's the same thing. Sometimes clients want to do something. I'm like, that's not what that's not what you really want.
Yeah. And I think in anything, it's in any major field, right? I think it's not so much like even for me, like it's not about managing the market. The market is easy stuff. Like that's not rocket science, right? It's managing expectations. When you're working with people, managing the expectations. Everyone wants everything right away and yesterday. So a lot of it, I think, is being understanding that this kind of stuff takes patience. It has to be consistency is key. And it's something that you have to have the time to invest in yourself first. Like to me, I think I'd mentioned this to you. My biggest fear of working out so often now, 5 days a week religiously, right, is my business going to suffer? It was actually the opposite. So because every morning I'd mentioned, like, my assistants know, listen, these 2 hours in the morning, he's not here. That's part of my workday. It's almost like a board meeting for me, right? So, and you would think that my business would suffer. It's the opposite. My business has taken over more so than ever before. And think because I'm so much more of a better version of myself for clients. I'm finished. I have so much energy. And I'm a happier person. I'm a better person. I'm a more confident person. And it helps everything else. I still work the same. I work later, but it's just everything ties in a lot better. So as I mentioned earlier, to me, I just feel like everyone's getting the best version of me because of this, because mentally and physically, I'm at my peak, even at the age of 43. I feel like
that's the key. That's the key. And it's what I mentioned, the viewers that are watching this now, I've said this before. Those of have listened to me in the past, and Mike just hit the nail on the head. And it's that, those 2 hours are for me. Most of us are saying, oh my God, 2 hours, but I want you to put things into context. Okay. So if you're making an appointment with your clients, if you're making an appointment for those meetings or whatever the case is, if you're going to the doctor, okay, sometimes you can spend 3 hours going to the doctor, then you have to wait in the waiting room and things like that. Why can't you make an appointment with yourself? Most of us never think about that. But the most important, the nexus, the core, why can't you make an appointment with yourself? And you can. The key is just scheduling it out, knowing that time is you. And that is how you really start to take care of yourself, start to pick yourself up and perform in your A game.
Yeah.
Day in, day out, I see so many people struggling and they don't admit it. But my gosh, I have seen so many people. It's like an open book, right? I've seen the stories hundreds of times. And they're saying, this is not for me. This is too hard. This is that mental, barrier, right? That limited belief that we talk about. And they just keep gaining the weight. Their health is going bad. And if you notice, especially now, let's talk about, age categories, right?
Yep.
So in let's say you're getting into your 60s. What I have noticed from experience is most people getting into the 60s are more proactive in their health because they're like, oh my God, you know what? This came up or this came up. So now they're more active on, calling the doctor, or this came up, or I got to do test. But I've noticed now more people in their 30s and in their 40s with high blood pressure, cholesterol off the roof, diabetes, borderline Diabetes. It's concerning because, there's so many things that you can do as long as you don't have an underlying issue. Obviously, if there's a genetic factor that plays into that, but this could be so preventable. You had a issue with high blood pressure,
Yep.
And this was like in your late 30s,
Yep.
right? Talk to us a little bit about that. How did you find out, and how was like the awakening
So
of going, whoa, what's going on here?
yeah, so a lot of I think a lot of that kind of runs in the family, high blood
Okay.
pressure, high cholesterol. But again, I think that one of the sayings I always use, and I think it kind of fits here, is, people never plan to fail; they fail to plan.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So for me, I always thought in my mind, okay, I'm working out a couple times a week, an hour a day, and in my mind, they always assumed just eat a lot of protein, a lot of red meat, and stay away from carbs, and I'd be healthy that way.
Right.
Little did I know that it hurt my cholesterol, right? So I didn't really have a plan. My plan was just go to the gym, lift heavy weights, and you're healthy that way, right? So to speak. So I think that at that point that was a little bit of a scare for me, where the doctor said, "Listen, if you don't get this down, we're gonna have to put you on medication." So at first they actually put me on cholesterol medication, right?
Which actually, in some cases, some people, their side effect is gaining weight.
Yeah.
On this medication.
Yeah, I gained some water weight with it. I was on it for a few months or so, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And even with that, because that's when I think my cholesterol and blood pressure went up the most because of COVID. I wasn't working out as much. We had that period of time, that lapse of about 6 or 8 months of not working out the same. Gyms were closed for a while. Right away, my levels went back up, and I said, "Listen, I had my blood work done," and the doctor said, "Listen, this is the level of your cholesterol. This is for someone in their 40s. It's a silent killer, so you need to take care of it."
Right.
So we started. I said, "You know what? Rather than the medication, I'm going to fight to just work out high intensity," which is what we do,
Sure.
right? And went back 6 months later, had my blood work done. Cholesterol's fine, blood pressure's fine. I'm good. I now obviously monitor everything.
Yeah,
but
right.
If I would have kept going down that path, I would have been on medication.
No, that's
consistently.
that's definitely something that I always want to hone in on, because a lot of this can be preventable. We already have the evidence, the data. I mean, we're going back 50 years. Yeah. Okay, we have this evidence that exercise has a correlation with minimizing and reducing the high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, etc. There is a correlation. The sad part about it is the medical community. We know that the medical community knows that. Yeah. And it's the system, right? A lot of doctors, they want to go out of their way and help their patients more, but it's just that the system doesn't even let them, because again, it's with insurance and everything else, they got to churn people in and out. Yep. And it's unfortunate, it is what it is at this particular point. Yep. And they'll tell you, "Oh, you need to exercise." "Oh, Mr. Doctor, all right, great. Where do I do?" Go find a professional. Mm-hmm. Where? I don't know. Just look for one. Mm-hmm. But it's very vague. Yep. Right? So it's sad that really, a lot of these medical professionals, they can't prescribe fitness, right? A little bit more in tuned into the equation. Mm-hmm. So, I wrote a book. I don't know if you could you could put that up there for a second, which is actually down here, which is Prescribed Fitness: The Powerful Medicine of Exercise. Okay, this book, I mean, you can get a free copy. I am not even selling it. I am giving it to our viewers because, again, I want to promote the importance of health and wellness to the community, so they understand how important this is. I mean, it's critical, and this could prevent so many issues down the line. If you make an investment on yourself now, in yourself, on health and wellness, it's going to pay dividends, because you're not going to be suffering later on in the future, and then you really have to start, paying out later on. So I wrote this book really to promote health and wellness, how you really hack the aging process, because the data is there. There's studies after studies after studies how exercise really puts into the equation, and people look healthier, younger. And I'll tell you this, and if you're watching this, think about this for a second. Have you ever looked at someone and just wondering, man, I wonder how old they are? And when they tell you their age, either two things: "Oh my God, they look a lot older," or wow, he or she looks really good. They look 10 years younger, right? So from experience, from what I've seen, day to day, those people who exercise, not only is their skin, their body, their energy, their aura, just their well-being, it almost looks 10 years younger than what they are.
Yep.
Now, I do medical calls with fire rescue as well through a paramedic program that we're doing. And a lot of times is when we're going through fire rescue and we do these medical calls, I see some of these guys and girls in their 30s, and before I get their age, unfortunately their health is very poor.
Yep.
And before I get their age, in my mind, I'm already thinking, okay, this one's about 20 years older. Maybe they're in their mid 50s. Yep. Or 60s. Yep. I've even had one. I'm like, my God, I thought this person was in their 60s. And when I look at their driver's license, I almost fall off my chair. I fall off my chair. Yep. And that's really because of that factor of they're just not taking care of themselves.
Yep.
And you've seen it. I mean, think about some of your friends that are in that age category who haven't taken care of themselves. Remember high school, you see some of the guys now and girls, and you're like, oh my God, what happened to this?
Yeah.
And then, life, because life kicked in and all this and all that. Yes, we all have issues. Everybody has some sort of story. Come on, everybody has it. It's a matter of understanding. I always say the analogy, and I've mentioned this one to you too. Think of a hole. Okay, so we have this hole, and you fall in this hole, and it's called, and there it's quicksand. You're falling deeper and deeper into this hole, and you look up, and you're like, okay, I can get out of it. It's not a big deal. That's what happens to most of us, right? We're falling deeper and deeper in this hole. Before you know it, you're way on the bottom, and you're looking up going, how the heck am I going to get out of here? Because I've wasted so much time just saying, I'll get out one day.
Yep.
As a trainer, I have to throw in the lifeline and pull them out. And it's not easy. Sometimes they can't even get out because they're so far in there.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. I mean, day in, day out. Guys, I keep telling you, if you're struggling, okay, if you're having an issue, you're watching this, and you really want to take that step, it's the hardest part. The hardest part is taking that first step towards fitness. The rest is easy. I always tell you, and you've questioned me before, saying, what are we doing today? Yep. What's the programming? What's this? Yep. And I tell you, look, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, which I'll explain now. I go, don't think. Walk in through the door. How many times have you walked in through the door and it's like, oh my God, this is insane. I mean, give us a little example of like when you have the famous sled.
Yeah.
You guys will love this one.
Yeah. So, so I guess depending on what people are capable of, right? I guess you've been pushing me. So I could say that my workouts today are much more intense than what they were 3 years ago. I guess maybe I can handle it. And even though the times I think that I can handle it, you always find a way to push me to do it. But sometimes I'll look at the sled with the amount of plates you put on there. So you're going to put this here back and forth. There's only one and you have to do it 8 times. I'm like, there's no way I can do that. And then I probably hate you halfway through. And then towards the end, I feel good. And
we're making you stronger.
Yep.
Right? We're making you stronger. So these challenges, these struggles is how the body adapts, right? And we get stronger. Now, what most people don't understand, that there's so many layers and categories when it comes to programming a client. Yeah. So number one is, the mental aspect, right? So there's things behind the scenes there. Number two is the motivational aspect, right? How do you keep a client motivated and engaged? That interpersonal relationship. Yep. Number three, I mean, the list goes on, right? The capabilities, right? You just want to push them that they come in hungry and they leave hungry. Yep. Because again, if you blast somebody to the ground, they're just like, oh my God, I don't want to come back tomorrow. This is just too much. Yep. So you have to know that fine line. And that's only part of it because there's so many moving parts. Yep. And if a client actually knew everything that happened behind the scenes, they would be so overwhelmed that it's like, my God, this is too much. I tell them, look, as a professional, if you want to ask, obviously we're going to have your answers. Don't think about that. There's too many things in your life right now to think about, oh, how many reps am I doing here? What's my programming? If I got to work this, if I got to work that. I mean, don't think about that, right? It's too many things in your life happening right now. What we do is we already have the game plan behind the scenes, and then we go into the action. The hardest part, I'm going to tell you right now, is taking the first step. That is the hardest part. After you made that step and you've come into our domain, which I'll tell you a cool story after,
Mm-hmm.
is once you come into our domain, that's it. We will facilitate this process, and there's a high likelihood of success, right? Sometimes you're your own worst enemy,
Yeah.
and we fall off.
Yeah. What's the saying that the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, right?
Yes.
The second best time to plant a tree is now.
Yeah,
right?
you couldn't hit. Yes, absolutely. You can hit the nail on the head on that. The best time to plant a tree is now.
Yep.
Is absolutely now. Look, for instance, and I'm gonna have this guest, and I'll mention him later on, but I will have him on this show, which is Ed. And when he came to me, he came in as a 600-pound individual. Today, he's a 260-pound individual, and this was his thing that he told me when he walked into the gym on day one. And I would never forget this. He goes, Omar, I don't know how, quote unquote, you people, I love how he responded to that one, right? You people are so fanatical, and you can work out 5 times a day, and you could do this so enthusiastic, and you really actually crave this on a day-to-day basis. I looked at him and I go, I can appreciate that. You know why? Because you will be there. I promise you. And he looked at me like, yeah, okay, sure. Okay. Ed trains 5 to 6 times a week now. This is 3 years later. If he's not training, he's blowing up my phone, driving me crazy. Okay. This is a guy that was 600 pounds down to 250.
I remember his first day. I worked out after him that day, and he was sitting down. He couldn't stand up. I remember that he was sitting for, he had to sit down for 30 minutes. He couldn't stand up. He had to be 600 pounds.
Yeah. And what people don't understand is it's that mental aspect of it. I got to work with a client mentally for a while, because sometimes we're in a dark place.
Yes.
We're in a dark place, and we got to get out of this showing, okay, you can do this, and this could be an escape, because exercise promotes a lot of hormones, believe it or not. Right? A lot of feel good hormones, it's, dopamine, and also, endorphins. And it's something that we start doing this in a way that we start to crave it.
Yeah, of course.
When you start to crave it over and over and over again, I just sit back and I'm like watching the action going, this is perfect.
I think once those seeds that you plant start growing and maturing, and you start seeing progress, that's, I think, that's the motivation. You initially taking that investment in yourself, and you're a little scared, and then you're not really in great shape. And then once you start seeing that real progress, like 3 weeks in, like that third week, you're looking at yourself and you see the difference. I think that's when it kicks in for most people and say, you know what, everything that I'm doing, it's working, and it's something I want to continue to do. And then you buy in even further.
And it's fun. And it's funny you say that, because here's the reality of this. And unfortunately, there's a fallacy in our industry. There's a big fallacy. There's a lot of marketing hoopla that happens. You see it with the supplement companies, unfortunately. Some work, some don't. You see it with the fitness advertisement. Some work, some don't. So there's a huge fallacy. But we promote this quick thing. Lose weight in 30 days and this and that. Yeah, you could. I mean, I could have somebody lose weight in less than 10 days. I mean, you'd be surprised. In 10 days, I could have you, lose a drastic amount of weight, and they'll be like, wow. But it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. That's the important part. So, for instance, I'll tell you another story. There was she came to me, a client. She came to me a couple months ago, and she goes, I have been interviewing several trainers in the area, and I was just intrigued by the stories and clients that you've connected with, and I just want to see if maybe you're a good fit. So I need to lose a lot of weight and fast, because I have a lot of underlying issues. This is somebody with thyroid hormone disorders, Hashimoto's. I mean, there's a lot of medical underlying conditions. And every trainer that she interviewed, they all told her the same thing. Oh, if you exercise and you eat right, You'll lose weight and you'll lose weight fast and I'll get you there. We'll do this, we'll do that. When she sat down with me and my team, I was the first person to tell her, hold on a second. I'm going to be real here with you. Okay, this is going to be a major challenge. You're not going to lose weight in a month. You're not going to lose weight, in a very short time period. This is going to be hell.
Mm.
Okay, you're going to be discouraged. You're going to have issues having this weight loss process because you're battling underlying conditions. So we might even need to have a medical intervention
Mhm.
with a doctor to see if we can help facilitate this process. I'm not here to sell you that, oh yes, we can do it. No, it's we can definitely do it in the long run,
Yeah.
but it's going to be a process. And she just looked at me kind of like discouraged, going, oh God, okay. And then she walked out. The next day, this was actually pretty interesting because I thought she was just, wanted a quick fix. And
Yeah.
I mean, I had to be real with her. The next day, she calls me and she goes, you know what? I went home and I knew that you're the person that I need to connect with because everybody else gave me the BS answer
Mhm.
and you gave me the reality. You gave me the reality on what to expect. And that's typically what happens because in the fitness world, most of us don't know. Most of us don't have that education. And we just listen to what we're told. I encourage you guys to do your self-education. I encourage you to challenge us. Okay, I have to read studies all day. I mean, I have studies coming out of my ears. Why? Because number one, I like it, but it's also a service to my clients. So please challenge your professionals. If it's on the medical side, if it's on the finance side, right? I mean, it
Of
only makes
course.
you better, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
If it's
Yep.
on our side,
Yep.
challenge us
Yep.
because we want to have that dialogue in order to not only better ourselves, but to help you. And that's that just goes a long way. That goes a long way. Let me check. How are we doing on time? How are we doing there? We're okay. So we're almost at that mark. We're almost at that mark. Okay, so we're almost there on that.
So let me just add, I think that for my experience in mainly doing business with entrepreneurs and a lot of high level executives, I think most of them want to be challenged. I
Yeah.
don't think any of them like things too easy. I think it's just part of their DNA where they're always striving for something more.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's especially for that particular client, right? I think people want that. They want someone who's going to challenge them. It's not just going to bend over backwards and just, I just want the account. I just want this. No, you want someone that's going to be brutally honest with you and is
Yeah.
going to tell you, listen, there's no shortcuts here. Like in anything in
Absolutely.
life, you're successful because you didn't take shortcuts. You're successful because you went the extra yard to get where you are today,
Yeah.
right? So it should be no different, from your health standpoint. I mean, there's no freebies, right? So no one wants a frozen dinner where something just handed out to them, right? So
Right. In order to be successful, you got to work at it. I mean, it's just the reality of the fact. You have to work at it. Please, if you're listening to this, because we're about to conclude here, is challenge yourselves. The most important takeaway, especially from today, if you're watching this, is not only challenge yourself, but take the step. You're watching this, you're going, man, I need to do something. And you never really do anything because you just keep telling yourself over and over again, take the first step. If you take that step, you've just crossed 60 to 70% of the issue. The rest we take care of. If you need to reach out to us or any of that, I mean, our links and information is below here on the either the Facebook, the Instagram. You'll see the information there as well. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to my team. We're just here to listen. I want to hear your story. I want to hear your struggles and direct you. If it's us helping you, great. If we're directing you in one shape or form, we've done our job. We just want to connect with you and make sure that we're touching the masses. So I hope you've all enjoyed this episode of OC Talks. Remember, our mission here is to educate and inspire all the viewers that watch this throughout this community, because we're the beacon. We're the beacon of hope to this, because again, a lot of us are having issues and we want to be the solution to that. Be sure to tune in. We will let you know when the next episode goes live as well. And any questions, reach out to us. And we thank you again for being part of this and watching this show. Thank you again. Until next time.